Hi, marketers. This is Dots, and welcome to the Marketing Leadership Podcast. With me here is AJ Wilcox, founder at B2 Linked. We will discuss LinkedIn ads as the secret weapon for B2B customer growth. Before I start, I'm just telling you guys, whenever you search LinkedIn ads and secret weapon, AJ's name will come out. That's because he is the GOAT of this channel, and it's an honor having him here. So if you're ready, let's do it. AJ, welcome. How are you doing?
Dots, I am turning bright red. Thank you for such a killer intro. I'm
I
flattered.
know, I know, I know. Yeah, you really walking the talk, and I'm sure we are going to really get deep into that. But before that, can you tell us a bit about yourself, your background, your role, and why LinkedIn ads?
Yeah, so I started in digital marketing. I was an SEO guy, a Google Ads guy, back in 2007 when I graduated from university. And if you would have asked me back then, like I didn't know what LinkedIn ads were. LinkedIn wasn't really a thing. Um, I went. My whole career was in digital marketing, and I absolutely love showing results.
Mm,
And the last company I worked for, I joined back in 2011. I started up and I report to my new boss, the CMO, and I laid out my strategies for everything I wanted to do. And I remember her saying, "All that sounds great. Go ahead and execute it." But we also started a pilot with LinkedIn ads about 2 weeks ago. So see what you can do with it. And I jumped in because I didn't want to look stupid to my new boss. About 2 weeks later, what I did is I took all of the strategies that I understood from Google Ads and I applied them to LinkedIn. I didn't have a LinkedIn strategy, and those turned out to be really, really good. And within about 2 weeks, my sales reps came up and said, "Hey, AJ, we don't know what you're doing, but we're fighting over your leads. Keep it up." I did the investigation, realized that every single one of those leads that they were talking about was coming from LinkedIn. And that's when I went all in. I took that to become LinkedIn's largest spending account in the world. And then after two
wow.
and a half years of running the biggest account, I said, okay, there has to be more companies than just this one that need help with LinkedIn ads. And that's when I started B2 Linked back in 2014. We're an ad agency that LinkedIn ads is all we do.
Yeah, makes sense. We were discussing it this offline, but I just wanted to comment that your URL is awesome. Jesus, like just combining B2B and LinkedIn in one URL is awesome, and we will be sharing more details about that, as we go on there. But big ups for having the vision, if I'll put it that way.
I knew exactly what we were going for. We know it's mostly B2B and I knew it was going to be LinkedIn. So yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And speaking of LinkedIn, I spend between 30 and 1 hour a day, except if I'm doing outreach, and then it's like hours at a time. And whenever I search through the feed, I see ads from luxury companies like Rolex and some of these other companies that you could almost swear that they will never advertise. They are always about Rolexes, word of mouth. People tell people, the products tell themselves in their shiny little uh, ability. Uh, so I'm really, really curious. Like, have you been seeing a shift of big brands moving into LinkedIn ads that you've probably never have thought of, say, 5 years ago? And why? Why are they making the shift?
Well, definitely I've seen it. And the whole purpose behind it is if you look at every other ad platform, they all have their specialties of audiences that they can reach. But take paid search, for instance, or if you're talking about Google or even if you're doing SEO, you're targeting by the keyword that someone is typing. But you
Mm,
can't tell by the keyword someone types who they are, like what their ability to purchase is, what kind of company that they come from. And LinkedIn has really a monopoly on this data. So Rolex knows that they can say, hey, let's target just the highest earners in the world. We know that's going to be anyone who's a C-level title at a company with more than 500 people in these regions. Cool. We know we can reach them exactly with ads that with every other network, even if it's cheaper on a per click basis on Google or on Meta, you can't be guaranteed that every single one of those impressions is going to go to a high income earner. So they're willing to invest.
yeah, and I think that's what's going on. So that makes a lot of sense there. But what you just mentioned there is really, I guess, uh, strategy in 30 seconds. But now, let me give you a few minutes to give us what a typical, profitable LinkedIn ads campaign strategy look like? What does that look like? You reach out to a client, you're working with them. What is that process like? What are the things, what are the questions that you want them to ask and maybe answer themselves? Or you helping them to answer through that process of making sure there is you're making LinkedIn some sort of a revenue stream for B2B.
Yes. So it's so interesting. If we just look at like what B2B has become over the last 10 years. Last 10 years I've been running this company, purchase behavior has changed significantly.
Mhm.
So back 10 years ago, what we could do, we could say, hey, there's a cold audience. We're going to show them a helpful guide or a free cheat sheet or checklist or ebook or something, get them on a free webinar. And then they've interacted with that content, help them do what they do better. And then sales is going to reach out to them and get them on a meeting. And what we've noticed, especially over the last 2 or 3 years, uh, that doesn't work. We can still get someone to fill out a form to download a free piece of content, but when sales reaches out, it's crickets. Anyone who does respond, and even if you can convince them to set up a meeting, half the time they ghost you. So when you start comparing, like, how much are we spending on LinkedIn ads versus how many appointments are we getting, because that's what sales cares about, the costs are way, way, way too high. So we've realized that because user behavior has shifted, it's now so much easier to get information that's helpful. You can't stand out just by being helpful. We know that the average B2B purchase happens after 17 interactions with a brand. So our
Mm.
strategy has very much become uh, very video centric. We love video ads because you can communicate more emotion in 30 seconds of a video than you can after, 5 or 6 guides or ebooks. And and then we use LinkedIn's retargeting, where we can say, if you've watched at least 75% of this video or 50% of this video, then we're going to show you the next one in the sequence and the next one. And our goal is to rack up. We want those 17 interactions. We want them in somewhat close succession, and we want them more than anything to be meaningful, have emotion, be funny, be connected, be empathetic. And that's what gets someone, it's what earns their know, like, and trust for your brand. So that when you do say, hey, talk to someone in sales, they do it gladly and they show up and you don't get ghosted.
I like that because I would have thought you will be coming in from a performance marketing perspective. Given that what you're doing is performance, is a performance channel. But you were talking about brand marketing here, or why some people will say, some type of demand generation, as in the B2B world. And what I also like is the reason in terms of the format, right? So you've talked about the strategic approach, which is very nice. We've also talked about the format in your world that works best, which based on your experience and the scale, it might be indicative of most of the industry, right? Most of B2B. I don't know if you focus on B2B SaaS or it's B2B, B2B, every B2B, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that gives me a lot of hope that this company I co-founded with my boss is called Listen Network, that is designed for interactive content advertising, because video podcast, the lines are blurring these days. I know that now. I know I'm on the right track, if I'll put it that way. Now let's get into the not so good news about LinkedIn. Since I knew about LinkedIn ads, that was probably 2016. It was LinkedIn ads are expensive. Till today, same story. LinkedIn ads are expensive. People will even go specific and say $3 a click, blah blah blah. $1 a click, blah blah blah. Um, I have two comments about that before I ask my question. Uh, First one is that because of this, a lot of people are swarming to Google Ads, thinking that Google Ads is the cheaper alternative. But what has followed that is this: people don't know. I think sometimes it's a bit of a label, on LinkedIn. Right now, Google Ads, if you are really doing your campaign properly in B2B, you sometimes they get up to $2, $3 a click, depending on the campaign that you are running. But even till then, people are still thinking in their mind that Google Ads is cheaper. Google Ads is cheaper. Google Ads. So what do you want to really see about that to really clear the air and manage our expectations based on those two things? In fact, in the sense of what people need to think about when it comes to cost and LinkedIn, and why one channel is cheap doesn't mean it's effective, and why even the fact that why some channels are not even cheap, even if they think they are cheap, and why people just need to just cover the veil from your eyes, basically.
It's the perfect question because I am like you called me out. I am a performance marketer. My entire career has been how do I get the lowest cost per lead? And what's been so interesting is when I first got into LinkedIn, it was $2 a click was the minimum, and that was still expensive because at the time we were getting clicks from Facebook for a third of the cost, or sorry, for a third of a cent. It was crazy. And then, when I very first started with Google Ads, it was 5 cents per click minimum, and then they doubled it to 10 cents, and it was a catastrophe. Um, so LinkedIn ads have always been expensive, and they haven't lowered the price. As more and more advertisers are finding success, more and more budgets are coming, and so it went from $2 a click 10 years ago, 11 years ago, to now the average if you're targeting somewhere in North America is $10 to $16 a click. And
Ooh.
yes, Google, like in some for some search keywords, is much more expensive than that. But I would say on average, Google is cheaper. Meta is always cheaper. And so you look at it and go, okay, LinkedIn ads are crazy expensive. But this is so cool because the targeting on LinkedIn is so good, especially for B2B, that
Mm.
100% of your clicks are coming from your ideal target audience. But
Yeah.
on every other one of those networks, you don't have that guarantee. So we have one client right now specifically. They are running a really heavy Meta Facebook program and a really heavy LinkedIn program. And we've been comparing the two. LinkedIn is 3 times the cost per click, meaning that our leads are 3 times the cost. So your initial reaction would be, well, cut LinkedIn, it costs 3 times more. But that is to the marketing qualified lead. It's for
Mm.
getting like a top of funnel kind of lead.
Mm.
We see it as their sales team has to say, ooh, we have to throw 80% of these leads out because they're not the right person.
Mm.
And all of a sudden, LinkedIn, when you measure the ROI, is twice as profitable as Facebook, even though the costs are 3 times higher. So
Yeah.
it all is about the quality, the ability to get the right person. And that's why LinkedIn ads continue to increase in price because they have a monopoly on this targeting. You can't use this business targeting anywhere else at scale.
That makes a lot of sense. Guys, if you're hearing, it's Friday from from what we are recording here. This might come out on Thursday, but make sure to package something for your boss regarding what AJ has said. In terms of the fact that the targeting is insane. One, two. If you want your quarterly report or whatever it is, if you're a public company or even if you're a private company, to be great, then you need to know that what really matters is revenue, right? And the return on ad spend, it's going to be way better, especially when you interact with other members of the commercial team, like sales and support, and they are happy and they are in ages world fighting over your leads. Um, and and then looking at okay, what did I spend, and what was the deal size? I think what I like about LinkedIn ads, and I've successfully pitched that internally, is that the not just the quality of the lead, but even the size of the customer is awesome. The You get customers that it's hard to it's hard for them to churn because they are so big that the switching cost of going to another provider might be very high. So it's the benefits are you know, enormous. Of course, we are running an omni-channel strategy. So if you like, run some of the other things going on now, but LinkedIn is growing. LinkedIn is approaching 1 billion a year. LinkedIn has become the new Instagram, where people post, I make $1 million a day. Let me show you the secret. Whatever that is, LinkedIn is becoming an interesting channel that businesses, need to get on. Okay, another, I guess, school of thought, just to put it lightly. When you were discussing there, you mentioned, looking at your ideal audience and things like that. And people say, and this is a very technical question, if you're listening, you are probably doing this at a very senior level. But they say LinkedIn ads are not great for creating similar audiences or creating total addressable markets. What does that mean? Before I let AG answers, basically you technically take a segment of your customers, current customers. You have a list, you have a segment. They are your best customers, they are your dream customers, and then you use some sort of an engine to find similar customers like that in the market until I guess you reach market saturation. And there are different ways people do that. Those people I'm talking about right now, they say LinkedIn ads are not great for creating this stamp and making this expansion. And so they go to other third-party tools because they don't. I spoke to a very senior person in a very big agency that says they don't trust LinkedIn data for that process. So they would go to some other ad, not ad, some other data enrichment platform. I don't want to mention the names here, but I'm sure AJ, you know what I'm talking about. What do you say to those people? And do you even agree with them?
So I definitely agree with half of it.
Okay.
The uh, so LinkedIn, because Meta had such good success early on with lookalike audiences, LinkedIn felt like they had to keep up. So LinkedIn came out with lookalike audiences. And for those of you who don't know, let's say on Facebook, you say, here's an audience that I like. Maybe it's an uploaded list of current or past customers. And you say, go find people who are like them. And then there's a slider bar of like, be really tight or be really loose.
Mm,
And and that was so cool. So LinkedIn was in a hurry to build it. But what was so funny is LinkedIn never really needed lookalike audiences because B2B companies, they already know who their customers are. That LinkedIn's targeting is already a lookalike. You're saying anyone who shares this job title, go after them. Anyone who is of this industry and this company size, of this level of seniority. So LinkedIn came out with these matched audiences and no one cared. Like, there's not really much of a use. With the enrichment, for example, I think LinkedIn's got the absolute monopoly on all of this data.
mm.
So what we like to do is we'll generate leads from LinkedIn, and then we'll use enrichment on those leads to find out more about them and find better ways to connect.
Mm.
But I wouldn't go the other way because if you look at all of the companies that do enrichment, where do they get their data from? It comes from LinkedIn, and it's very clear.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's something else that we think about. Like, sometimes I had a discussion with our producer Brian, and he says that they love data brokers. Brian, by the way, is not a marketing expert, but after 100 episodes, you gotta love marketing. So, um, but yeah, you're right. It's where do these guys get them from, right? And then sometimes they also talk about AI. I'm like, LinkedIn has got ChatGPT, basically. Now Google is even doing away with lookalike as it is and talking about audience expansion and optimized targeting and things like that because now they've got AI that supports them. The second point I would like to say, just to agree with you there, is that I like what you said in terms of the specificity with LinkedIn is so amazing. And that's because lookalike audience, the concept of lookalike audience, really, if you think about it, is just to make up for the lack of specificity we have in the
Yes.
data ecosystem. Yeah. So, but when you have someone that, let me break this down for you guys listening. Um, we're in college, you are in a class of 2,000 students. Your best friends are just 5 out of 2,000. And you want more friends. So you need to do something to get more friends out of the 2,000. But how about you're in a different class whereby you know all 2,000 people? And so you don't need to really, do something because you don't have enough friends or something like that. That's exactly what I think is happening. Do you want to say more to that, AJ? Uh,
I think you said it better than I could. That's incredible. LinkedIn, because the specificity of the targeting is so good, it almost makes the need for lookalikes entirely go away.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so, but I love lookalikes on Meta because
mm,
Meta doesn't know anything about you professionally, knows
yeah,
about you personally, and
yeah,
so if I put my customer list in there and say go find more people who are like this, it can do that. But LinkedIn, I don't need to rely on anything like that because like I already know. Here's the titles, here's the roles, here's the seniorities. Actually, have the budget to purchase what I'm selling.
yeah, that makes sense. So, AJ, I just gave you a potential article title there. Why LinkedIn does not lead lookalike audience.
Yep, I agree. That needs to be a post.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. So, guys, I hope you've been enjoying this. A bit technical, but if you're listening, yeah, if there are any knowledge loops or knowledge gaps, you just need to go ahead, find those knowledge gaps, come back to listen to the episode so it resonates better with you. And the reason is that we will not change from our focus on this podcast of sharing great knowledge, the best knowledge possible. We share unique perspectives as well, for free as well. All we are asking is for you to subscribe to the Marketing Leadership Podcast. I know there are a lot of marketing podcasts out there, and there was a lot of process in thinking how we can really do things differently. And I hope, couple of episodes after, you are seeing things different if you are one of those loyal guys. And if you're loyal as well, don't just subscribe. Please leave a review. It doesn't matter what it is. Just leave an honest opinion either on Spotify or on Apple, so that I can drive the algorithm up a little bit. I'm not a clickbaity guy. It's something that I just don't do. But if you can help review, then that might be able to help us out. We will be right back. I have one more question for AJ. I've been enjoying this so far. And when we come back, we will talk about one other subject. But before then, it's going to be the dots rapid fire, which is a very interesting fire, the LinkedIn fire. I've been throwing AJ under the fire for some minutes now with some of the questions, and it's done really well. So I'm taking it up a notch, basically. In a few seconds, we'll be back with a word from our sponsor. Stay tuned. Welcome back, guys. So, like I said, it's the Dutch Rapid Fire. It's 3 questions. You are in the marketing court of law. You have answered 2 questions about LinkedIn, but there's 3 more questions you need to ask in this marketing court of law, where you say the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, good. First question: what is your best marketing KPI? I know, and I don't want to hear sales or revenue.
Yeah, revenue is so far away with B2B marketing that I need to stay far away from that anyway. My favorite marketing KPI has to be cost per 50-second view of a video ad. 50% is far enough in that you can tell like they are actually consuming what you're saying. And I want to make sure my costs are really efficient there, because that's going to really change the whole course of the conversation. Sorry, I know this is supposed to be rapid fire, but
No. You're allowed to explain, and
Sure.
it's good you explained about this, because part of the talent that I have, I brag to my family members every day, is the ability to see the future. And before we spoke here, I said AJ is going to be an amazing guest. So you've said something else that made me to think about that, and the fact that you value interactive media engagement. It's awesome, because that is exactly what we do as well. And that is what we are wanting the industries to see, not just in B2B, but in B2C. So that is great. So 30, IAB says it could be 15 seconds, it could be 30 seconds, but yours is a 30-second video in LinkedIn, right?
Yeah. And it could be the same across other channels too, but I feel like watching at least here's what we've actually seen on LinkedIn. If we have to pay $15 for a click to get someone to a website, or I can pay $5 to get someone to watch 45 seconds of a video, I know that 45 seconds was actually more valuable to me than just to click the website, because they caught the emotion. And I think
Yeah.
that's B2B. We talk about how emotion, it doesn't really play into it. That's more of a B2C thing. It's
Yeah.
not. We all make our
Yeah.
purchase decisions through emotion.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, it is changing nowadays as well, so that makes sense. And by the way, you are engaging with lower level managers in the B2B space, not the decision maker. So decision makers are less emotional, but the lower level managers, there's always a sentiment when they are shortlisting vendors. So
True.
that's something to also consider as well. Okay, second question: how long do you use social media every day?
I would say I'm on LinkedIn for probably about an hour a day. But I'm in the lucky part where I have a head of marketing who is in there all the time. I have an assistant who's in there all the time, so that saves me a lot. Being in social media marketing, if I only have to be in there for an hour, I'd call that success.
Yeah, makes sense, makes sense. I'm in the same boat as well. I also got some people who assist too. Last question: what is your favorite marketing quote?
Oh, I had one, but it just slipped my mind. I
Oh,
might have
wow.
to share. I might have to share, there's a Jim Carrey quote that I absolutely love.
Sure.
Doesn't have to do with marketing,
But
but,
if it could be
he said,
business, it could be life. It's okay.
yeah, he said, "Everyone wants to be rich and famous," something along these lines. "Everyone
Mm,
wants to be rich and famous, but when you get there, you realize that it's not all that great." And I think that's a good reminder to all of us that no matter what our prospects in our careers are and our ambition, there are more important things than what we're doing, and you have to make sure you are living your life, and you don't have a I have to fight with this too, but, you
mm,
don't have a goal at the end where you say, "I'm going to be happy when this happens."
yeah,
You
yeah.
have to enjoy it every single day.
Yeah. No, no. Actually, this might be better than the quotes you were thinking about because of the LinkedIn mania, right? Like I was telling you, LinkedIn is becoming the Instagram. Instagram has been certified by experts to cause mental health issues based on intimidation. There is a lot of intimidation in LinkedIn right now, and there are many things I could have done to increase my 3,000 followers. There are many cliffhangers and cynicism, which is really what is trending these days, that I could put into my content. But I want to be me. I want to be Dots, the Nigerian talkative that knows marketing strategy more than anybody else in the world. That is really who I want to be. And it's well, if you like it, mm. If my family friends are the ones liking my videos, mm. But you're right. You just need to enjoy it. And while LinkedIn is a good channel, let's use it responsibly, which is a very good one.
Amen.
Amen. Yeah. Okay, last question. Now, creative innovation is something that we often touch on, in our podcast episodes, because the strategic episode, we deal with audience, we deal with channels, we deal with best practices, tracking, and then creative innovation. So that being the last question here, you have spoken about the importance of video, um, uh, you know, as a very creative way to use LinkedIn ads and generate the kinds of results you want. But there was one I talked about before, and I guess I would like to talk about again. Not just because of my selfish interest. There's a bit of that in there if you are listening, but most of it is just for the world to know. And it's good that we're on the same page on this. I'm really, really excited about that. And that is driving, B2B podcast downloads and building B2B podcast communities. While the world is moving to a clickless, less text future, right? We have all these things coming up that people are talking about. Um, Voice search is about to become important again, and so on and so forth. So, me personally being in the podcast space, I think is really, really great, because I think that consumption will only continue to go higher because people just want to, consume knowledge, but they don't have to read and strain their eyes to do that all the time. Is that something you've been testing? I know we're discussing up the mic about this, but is that something you think you've been testing for, or you've seen some people test? And how do you think that will work in future? What do you see the future like for that industry?
If you would have asked me this 2 years ago, I would have said, absolutely do not use LinkedIn ads to promote a podcast. It makes no sense. Because
Wow.
I come from this world of performance marketing where
Yeah.
we spend X dollars and we get Y conversions, and those conversions mean something. But for those of you who don't know, tracking podcasts is next to impossible. When I look at my podcast stats, I can't even tell you how many subscribers I have. I get downloads, but there's no attribution where those downloads came from. So I can't make a case for it of like, yeah, spend $10 to $16 a click driving people to a podcast. You have no idea if they listened, if they subscribed, if they even downloaded. What we've found, because I have my own podcast. It's called the
Mm,
LinkedIn Ads Show.
mhm.
And we're on like, I think episode 116 as of the time of
Ooh,
recording here.
yeah.
And as we've analyzed our own sales, my sales team has come back to me and said, "Hey, over 50% of our leads now say that they came from the podcast."
Wow.
And I've changed my opinion entirely. So now I realize that when someone listens to the podcast, those of you who are listening to Dot's show all the time, like, like, and trust him. Absolutely. He's incredible. And you can tell, and you're constantly hearing him because you're subscribed. So
Mm,
I've shifted my whole strategy, or not the whole strategy, but I've shifted so much towards like, yes, let's be willing to invest into subscribable content. Your YouTube channel, your podcasts, weekly live streams. I mean, whatever it is that 2 years ago, I would have said, because you can't fire a conversion when it happens, how will you know if you're successful? Screw that. I say you drive people towards what you know is going to drive that know, like, and trust, and turn them into happy fans and customers down the road.
Mm.
And we have to be willing to invest in that.
Wow, wow, 50% of leads coming from that's
50%.
wow. Guys, if you're listening, yeah, you heard the man. Please start to not just think about LinkedIn as a great way to target people. And now LinkedIn has even shown that you can use it in B2C because individual watch, whereas B2C, and that's the Rolex story we discussed earlier. But even in the B2B space, to project thought leadership in general, not just with podcast and so on. I just think podcast, or in AJ's case, video is the best because that is how people better consume content these days. You can build trust in that way, and it will continue to be like that forever and ever and ever. So yeah, I can't just stress it enough, guys. If you are not on LinkedIn as you prepare for your budgeting, I don't know what's going on. With that rant, I know we can go on and on here, but I'd like to thank you for sharing your wisdom, great perspective as well. Where can people find you? Those who would really like to get into LinkedIn ads.
If you are looking to learn more about LinkedIn ads, we have a really low cost community where you get access to all these other LinkedIn ads thought leaders. It's called the LinkedIn Ads Fanatics, fanatics.b2linked.com. You see it up here on the screen. You get access to the whole community. Plus, you get access to all 4 of my courses that take you from beginner to expert. If you want to connect with me, hit me up on LinkedIn. Just make sure that you customize the note and say that you heard me on Dot's show. That way I can make sure I find it and accept it, because I get a lot of those. But yeah, if you want to work with us, our site is b2linked.com, and you can fill out a lead form there or just learn more about us there.
Yeah. Makes sense. Guys, that's all we have for you. If you'd like to see more episodes, it's at dotlovesmarketing.com, and subscribe to the Marketing Leadership Podcast on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. I'd like to thank Des Craig and Content Allies for their support. If you heard AJ before, 50% of his leads are coming from the podcast. And guess what? We have figured a way to track podcast attribution down to the RSS feed. You want to learn more? It's at listennetwork.co. Till next time, connect the dots.
Thank you for listening to the Marketing Leadership Podcast, brought to you by Listen Network. There will be links to resources mentioned in today's show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star review and be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode.